If there's one thing my local Chinese delivery has taught me, is that beef and black beans, they work like magic together. It's one of the most common dishes in Chinese restaurants, especially outside of China. And it's a wonderfully tasty dish. So I cheekily thought, what about steak with black bean sauce? Digging a little deeper, it's actually another marriage made in heaven. Fermented black beans contain multiple enzymes, and in particular proteases, which naturally tenderizes meat by breaking down protein into smaller amino acid strands. The fermentation is done with salt and salt only, which means the black beans have a very high salt content. Again, salt with time breaks down protein into smaller amino acid strands. So, flavors aside, these characteristics are extremely beneficial to both the moisture retention and the tenderization of the steak. So instead of using it to make a sauce, it's actually one of the best marinades out there. And a few other considerations. 1. The flavor. Now, of course, black bean, extremely strong in terms of flavor, and it might be an acquired taste. But having done it enough times, when you simply use it to marinate your steak, it enhances the flavors of the steak itself. You will start to get an aftertaste towards the end of your meal. But black beans are so rich in umami that it imparts so much savoriness to the steak. It's one of those things that if I didn't tell you, you could feel it's just that much better, but you couldn't pinpoint why. And of course, if you really like the taste of black bean, you can make a sauce afterwards. So, very simple. We almost treat this as salt. For a piece of steak, I normally suggest 0.6% to the weight of the steak. But in this case, because of the size of the fermented black beans, you would not have the same contact, so we'll aim for 1%. Now, these fermented black beans are 12% salt, meaning for every 100 grams, I get 12 grams of salt. So for a piece of steak, that's 300 grams. I'm aiming for 3 grams of salt, so 12 grams of black bean. Perfect. To maximize surface contact, we're just going to chop them up. It's very important to note for this recipe, you're buying plain fermented black beans, which nowadays you could find from most Asian supermarkets, but not the black bean sauce, because those are extremely heavy in sugar content, and your steak will burn the moment it hits the stove. Perfect. Now, simply cover our steak, and you can really push everything down. I can assure you the cleaning tomorrow will be quite easy. This method works with most steak cuts, by the way. Today we're using a chuck end of a ribeye, but you can use sirloin, fillet, whatever you fancy. Perfect. Now, normally, with all my steak recipes, I always advocate for leaving them on a wire rack in the fridge, uncovered, overnight, to dry out the surface, to make browning tomorrow easier. But today, we make an exception for 2 reasons. 1, we want to be able to press down on the minced black beans to maximize surface contact with the steak. But 2, and more importantly, for practical reasons, black beans, they are extremely pungent in terms of their fragrance. Leaving this overnight in the fridge would impart way too much aroma on anything else that you're keeping in your fridge. And trust me, as much as I like black bean, you don't want that. So we wrap this in cling film. If you have a vacuum sealer, this is the perfect time to use it. And you want to press and squeeze out as much air as possible. Another thing to note is the marination time. Yes, with salt, I like to go for up to 3 days. But anything that's fermented, the fermentation process itself generate acids, in particular lactic acid. While it's a very small amount of lactic acid in the fermented black beans, you don't want an acidic marinade with your meat for too long. So the optimal period I find is overnight in the fridge. And tomorrow, black bean marinated steak. I'll see you then. After marinating for an evening in the fridge, our steak is ready. Now, just before we sear it, we're going to prepare 2 very simple condiments that would go extremely well with the steak and reinforce that wonderful black bean aftertaste. First, we're going to make some dark soy marinated jalapeno slices. Jalapeno, they marinate so quickly in soy sauce. I'm talking about 10 minutes fast. The soy will take on a wonderful spiciness while we remove a bit of the harshness for the jalapeno. I highly recommend that you try it at least once. The only thing to note is jalapeno and soy sauce, they do not deal well with long marination. So keep it below half a day. Anything longer than that, they develop a very unpleasant flavor. We remove as much seeds or as little seeds as you wish, and we simply slice them. Perfect. Some dark soy sauce. And this will be ready by the time we finish cooking. Now, the green bell pepper will slice thinly to mop up all the fronds, all the burn bits, all the flavors from the steak. For a stir fry, I'd like to do it crosswise. Green pepper, black bean, beef. It's an established marriage made in heaven. Perfect. Now, the steak, carefully unwrap. As you can see, the salt content from the black bean has drawn out some moisture from the steak, and some of the moisture would have combined with the salt and been reabsorbed by the steak through reverse osmosis, tenderizing the meat and flavoring it. So, what we need to do, we use the back of a knife, we scrape the black bean away. The black bean has also given the steak beautiful color, as if we have pre-browned it. Now, just like you would any steak, we pat the surface dry as much as possible. And now we can see. Stove on, and we want the skillet to be hot, which brings me to the third benefit, I lost count, of the black bean marinade. Unlike a lot of the marinades that we like, that we know tenderize meat, the black bean marinade has almost no sugar content, and it will not make the steak burn more easily, like a shiokoji, like a miso, or even like papaya, so that you don't even have to adjust your cooking method. So once our skillet's hot, high smoke point oil. In this case, we have vegetable oil. That's the oil shimmering. Steak goes in. Make sure you hear the sizzle. Press it down to maximize the surface area that is in contact with the hot pan so that we trigger the Maillard reaction, which is what's going to make the meat taste meaty. And today, because we have the chuck end of a ribeye, we have this wonderful fat between the spinalis dorsi and the actual eye that only if you have it at home, I would enlist the help of a blowtorch to help us render the fat and create some of this wonderful burn fat flavors that you normally associate with a good barbecue. So, as I have explained in my other videos before, we only want to torch the fat, not the flesh, because you'll end up burning it. Burnt fat is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Burnt flesh is just burnt. Brilliant. Look at that. We'll do the same for the other side. We check on the browning. Beautiful. Now we cook the other side. Same thing, we first press, now we torch. Perfect. Perfect. Now, we just check for doneness. You want the thickest part to hit about 47, 48, and the carryover cooking would bring it to 54 Celsius, which is medium rare, which is how I like my ribeyes. So we're practically there. Check on the other side. Oh, look at that. All right, stove off. And we're gonna let the steak rest on a wire rack to finish the cooking. While our steak is resting, we skim off most of the excess fat and we'll mop up the flavors with the green bell pepper. So stove back on and green bell in. And many times on this channel, I've said you want to keep the vibrance of the bell peppers, keep the freshness, but not today. The flavor profile we're trying to achieve with the black bean marinated steak, more of a wilted green bell pepper flavor profile, a deeper flavor. If you ever had gumbo before, you'll understand what I'm talking about. As you can see, I'm not salting it at this point yet because we're going to season it mainly with some light soy sauce and a bit of dark soy from the jalapeno. And soy sauce burns quite easily with high heat. Once it's starting to wilt, we lower the heat slightly and we add a generous dash of light soy sauce, and this will be our seasoning. And, as promised, a small dash of this beautiful jalapeno infused dark soy, which will give us a deeper color and a bit of a kick. And we simply cook until most of the soy sauce has evaporated. Brilliant. Stove off and we can carve and plate. I mean, look at the color. This is so beautiful. And the bias, perfectly cooked. I mean, look at this beauty. Now we can plate. Beautiful green bell pepper. And we have the incredible, juicy, beautiful, savory ribeye marinated with our wonderful black bean sauce. Our dark soy marinated jalapeno. Beautiful. Just for a bit of freshness and brightness, micro coriander, which, if you've been following me for a while, it's my only plating game. And that's it. A flavor profile established by millions of Chinese takeout restaurants. This is fermented black bean marinated ribeye steak. I really, really hope you enjoy.